A jackstay is an overhead cable over which is passed gear or stores. At sea, allowance must be made for the relative movement of the two ships, so one end of the jackstay is secured and the other is tended by hand or winch. On this jackstay, a block called the traveller, from which loads are slung, is hauled back and forth between the two ships by an outhaul and inhaul shackled to it. There are two rigs for replenishment of solids, a light jackstay, shown here first, and a heavy jackstay. The principles are the same in both rigs and the gear is similar. The preparation of the light jackstay rig in the supplying ship is more easily seen in diagram. A length of the jackstay sufficient to reach between the two ships is hauled through the traveller and flaked down on the deck, and the outer end is stopped to the guardrail. The jackstay is then snatched first into its upper and then its lower leading blocks, and the hauling part is laid out along the deck. Next, the inhaul is snatched through its leading blocks, its hauling part is laid out along the deck as convenient, and its outer end is shackled to the traveller. Then the inner end of the outhaul is shackled to the traveller, flaked down on the deck, and its outer end stopped to the guardrail. The messenger has meanwhile been flaked down alongside the outhaul and its outer end stopped to the guardrail. The gun line is passed to the receiving ship in the usual manner, and the messenger hauled across. For the sake of clarity, the distance line and telephone cables have been omitted from this diagram, though they would in fact be passed over on the messenger. Here is the light jackstay rig in the supplying ship being prepared for passing. A flag indicates the replenishment point. The leading blocks are provided in pairs for the jackstay and the outhaul. One pair at the high point and the other pair on deck. The outer end of the jackstay is stopped to the guardrail and a sufficient length to reach between the ships is flaked down. Inboard of this length, the jackstay is rove through the traveller, which is hooked to any convenient position, and the jackstay is then snatched into its leading blocks. The outhaul and inhaul are now shackled to the traveller, and the inhaul is snatched into its leading blocks. Here are the preparations in the receiving ship before the rig is passed. Shot mats are placed on the deck and against any nearby structures to prevent damage, and the guardrails are lowered abreast the dump. A slip is provided to secure the standing end of the jackstay to the high point well above the dump. Two leading blocks are provided for the outhaul, one on the deck and the other in the vicinity of the slip. Snatch blocks should always be used when possible to avoid all unnecessary delays. When contact has been established by gun line, the messenger is passed across, and when it comes to hand in the receiving ship, the outhaul is unstopped from the guardrail, tipped to the messenger, and paid out. To the outhaul is stopped the end of the jackstay. When the outhaul comes to hand in the receiving ship, it is unclipped from the messenger, snatched into its upper, and then its lower leading blocks, and the slack is taken down. When the outer end of the jackstay comes to hand, it is hauled by the outhaul close to its slip and its strop is secured. Now the outhaul is unstopped from the jackstay. The tongue of the slip is moused with wire, and the jackstay is now ready for the first load to be passed. A canvas bag is used for the transfer of stores and small spares up to a maximum weight of 500 pounds. About 20 men are required to manhandle the light jackstay. As soon as the load is hooked on, the officer in charge of the dump gives the order to haul taut, and the load is lifted clear of the deck. During the journey of the load across, the jackstay must not be allowed to sag. Hands in the receiving ship run away with the outhaul, while those in the supplying ship pay out the inhaul, and the load travels across. When it is over the dump, the order is given in the supplying ship to the men on the jackstay to walk back roundly, the jackstay is slackened away, and the load is lowered to the deck. The jackstay is then hauled taut again, and the bag returned for another load, the men in the supplying ship running away with the inhaul, while the outhaul is paid out in the receiving ship. When a man has to be transferred between two ships, a stirrup is used. An alternative method is to use a chair on a sling. In either case, the man to be transferred must wear a life jacket. Casualties are transferred in a cot, which should be slightly foot down when the patient is embarked. A steadying line should also be used in this instance and carefully tended. On the completion of the replenishment, to disengage the rig, the bight of the outhaul is hitched to the jackstay, the strain is taken on the outhaul, the slip knocked off, and the jackstay lowered. The outhaul is unsnatched from its lower block as convenient, and the jackstay is paid back, while the supplying ship hauls it in. When the supplying ship has recovered the jackstay, the outhaul is unsnatched from its upper block and paid back to its bitter end. The messenger is paid back separately with the telephone lines. The receiving ship then shears off.